Hello there. Happy Monday. I'm Hillary. This is the 4-Minute Buzz. Let's get into some of today's top stories. The Kyle Rittenhouse case is finally over. After weeks of trial and almost a week of jury deliberation, the jury announced that they had reached a unanimous verdict last Friday afternoon. The jury acquitted Kyle on all charges. Here is Kyle reacting to the jury foreman reading off the jury's decision.
As to the first count of the information, Joseph Rosenbaum, we, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty. As to the second count of the information, Richard McGinnis, we, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty. As to the third count of the information, unknown male, we, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty. As to the fourth count of the information, Anthony Huber, we, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty. As to the fifth count of the information, Gage Grosskreutz, we, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty.
Members of the jury, are these your unanimous verdicts? Is there anyone who does not agree with the verdicts as read? Would you wish the jury polled? No.
Well, this jury announcement, it took social media by storm, with people from all across the political aisle giving their opinions. Now, here's the Blaze's very own Beck sharing his opinion on the verdict.
We have to agree to disagree. And on this one, I hope that most Americans can agree justice was done. If you watched the trial, justice was done. How many people watched it? I don't know. But before you give an opinion on it, you go back and watch the trial, because that kid was innocent and he deserves his day in court with all of those in the media that made him into a monster. God bless you, Kyle. God bless your family. If there's anything I can do, you let me know. I'm with you. God bless. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way.
But not everybody was happy with this outcome. Many high-ranking Democrats made sure to let their disapproval be heard. President Biden released a statement saying, quote, "While the verdict in Kenosha will leave many Americans feeling angry and concerned, myself included, we must acknowledge that the jury has spoken." Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg said, quote, "There's a lot of pain in this country, and that pain and that frustration was aroused by the entire case, including the verdict. And for a lot of us, there's just a lot to be upset about, a lot to be concerned about." And Vice President Kamala Harris said in a tweet, quote, "Today's verdict speaks for itself. I've spent a majority of my career working to make our criminal justice system more equitable. It's clear there's still a lot more work to do." Well, speaking of Vice President Kamala Harris, she made history. Kinda. While President Biden was undergoing some anesthesia for a colonoscopy, he temporarily transferred presidential powers to Harris. For 85 minutes, Harris was the first woman to hold those presidential powers, with the hashtag President Harris trending on Twitter. Next, Texas Democratic gubernatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke is doubling down on a controversial stance regarding gun ownership. So during his 2020 presidential run, when asked if he was willing to take away Americans' guns, Beto infamously and enthusiastically said yes, focusing in on the ownership of AR-15s and AK-47s. Well, while on CNN this weekend, Beto doubled down on this belief, saying, quote, "We are a state that has a long, proud tradition of responsible gun ownership, and most of us here in Texas do not want to see our friends, our family members, our neighbors shot up with these weapons of war. So yes, I still hold this view." I'm Hillary. That's your 4-Minute Buzz. Now here's Pat and Stu to start the show.
Thank you, Hillary. Appreciate it. Glenn is on vacation this week, so it is Pat and Stu filling in, sitting in for him. 888-727-BECK would be the number to call if you want to get involved with the show.
Lots of interesting things today. We still have the aftermath of the Rittenhouse. We haven't talked about that. Happened on Friday, right?
Yeah,
so
Friday
we haven't
afternoon.
actually talked about it on this show. I did do a bunch on it on Friday's Stu Does America, and I'm sure you covered it this morning.
I did talk a little bit about that this morning, yes.
We can get into that. I mean, we can go into, what are our views on it? Do we think it's a good verdict or a bad verdict?
Well, do you like white supremacists?
No, I don't.
Okay, then.
So
right.
it's a
you
bad,
answered your own question.
So it's a bad verdict.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my, yes. I mean, it speaks for itself. I think is what our president said.
Yeah,
which means
it's
what?
An interesting way of not saying the obvious truth that it's the right verdict.
Right.
Like, but you can still...
The verdict speaks for itself. Not guilty. It does speak for itself. More coming up on the radio program.
What you are about to hear is the fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Today, featuring Pat and Stu for Glenn. Reunited, and it feels so good. Everybody.
No, I'm going to let you...
Okay,
it's going to be Pat-only
really?
sing-alongs, but Pat and Stu for the show today.
We got to talk about the Kyle Rittenhouse being acquitted situation. We'll get into that and a lot more. There was a really awful tragedy in Waukesha, Wisconsin at a Christmas parade, of all places. We'll get into that and a lot more. Don't want to miss a minute of today's show. We'll get to all of that coming up in 60 seconds.
The Glenn Beck Program.
So if you're like most Americans, you probably spend a significant amount of your time thinking about how to make more money, or at least save more money back, having more money than you currently do. Nothing wrong with that, of course. It's good to be aware of how your financial house is holding up and to be about the business of trying to make it more secure, especially in the current economy, which is incredibly unstable. Well, this is where you need to give American Financing a call and let one of their dedicated mortgage specialists help you examine your options. It's possible you could get a refinance of your mortgage at a much lower rate. These things are happening all over the country right now. So save some money. Get a consolidation loan to maybe make your debt a little bit more manageable. And you could literally be saving hundreds of dollars a month, maybe even thousands of dollars a month. And what would that mean to you and your family? For over 2 decades, American Financing has been helping people just like you find ways to make their finances work for them. You can call them today at 800-906-2440, 800-906-2440, or visit them at americanfinancing.net. It's americanfinancing.net.
American Financing, NMLS 182334, www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org.
Pat and Stu for Glenn on the Glenn Beck Program. 888-727-BECK. Kyle Rittenhouse acquitted on all charges. So that is really good news. And of course, the left has gone apoplectic over it. I don't know if did you not follow a single moment of this trial, or did you just see all the evidence and completely ignore it? And you're just so stubborn that you can't be swayed by anything presented to you that shows that this guy was absolutely not guilty of murder.
Well, it would be easier for them to decipher what happened if there was video of the incident, Pat. If there happened to be, just luckily...
Just like a fleeting sort of shot,
Well,
maybe.
I was thinking maybe if they had the entire incident on video from multiple angles.
Yeah, but that's preposterous.
Right, that
couldn't
happen.
possibly happen.
That couldn't happen. Or if you had witness statements that saw all of it happen, even the prosecution witnesses that, like, let's say, agreed with the defendant.
Even one of the so-called victims that agreed with the defendant.
That would make it easy.
It was self-defense. I pointed the gun at him first.
Yeah. That maybe would make it a more manageable intellectual decision.
But no. It doesn't. It doesn't matter at all.
No, because this has nothing to do with truth, right?
Right.
The left they invested in this narrative early, right?
And I don't know why. Why were you so invested in that? Is it because it happened during the BLM riots? Is it because you've got a 17-year-old kid who has a gun, and you just assume that he's some sort of right-wing kook, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, I think the real reason why they invested in this early is because the people who did it are lunatics.
Yeah.
The people in the media, the people on Twitter, the blue check marks that tell you that white supremacy is the big issue here, have no evidence to do so, and are lunatics. They're insane people.
And I think they really believed that black people were shot by a white guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
don't know that they still. I don't think they still have that information.
The Guardian this weekend put an article out that said Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 black people. An article.
You've got to be kidding me.
Still happening in the news. This is not even this is not the random person you know on Twitter.
You got to be kidding.
Right.
I did not see that.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine who is a pretty well-informed person. I mean, he doesn't live and die with conservative politics, though. Not following every minute of every trial or every story that kind of penetrates conservative media. And we were going back and forth about it, and because someone had said something. There was that tweet that went around. You may have covered this on Pat Gray Unleashed, but someone said, by the way, employers, you should probably let your black employees have a couple days off, no matter how this trial goes, just so they can.
For what?
And that's what my joke was, which is basically because all African Americans have to join together to mourn these three white
guys?
people who were shot. What does this even mean?
Wow.
And he responded
incredible.
though, wait, so he didn't shoot any black people?
No, not one.
Not one. And I was like, this is someone who's, informed. And, I will say he did shoot at one African-American who is also known as Jump Kick Man. For what reason? Because they went on his Facebook page and he was into karate and they had him getting his red belt. No, it was because he was in the middle of jump kicking Kyle Rittenhouse to the head, and it's on video. So they called him Jump Kick Man.
Wow.
So he did shoot at him and miss. So he did try to shoot one African American, but all of the people he tried to shoot were trying to kill him.
Yeah. Right.
That is.
Yeah.
That is the issue that needed to be discussed here and correctly was decided by the jury, which can give you some faith in humanity.
That is something called self-defense.
Yes.
You're defending yourself against being killed by somebody else.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened here.
It was 100% clear. And you can look at this in the positive way and say, number one, the jury got it right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's a positive. Mm-hmm. Good thing. Number two, didn't seem like there were widespread riots. Kenosha still stands today, which could have gone either way.
That's a positive.
Could convince me either one. I know we had people who went up there to cover it, and luckily, thank God, not too much to cover, at least so far. Mm-hmm. There were, protests here and there. I don't understand why you would protest something like this. As we say over and over again, you learn about the case. Mm-hmm. And then if there's something wrong, then you protest. Learn, then protest. The order is important.
Confusing order, though.
Can I just do protest, then learn? No. You have to do learn, then protest. Yes.
Okay, I protest first, and then I learn something about the protests that I just had.
No, it's the opposite of that. The order is important. It's learn, then protest.
Then I protest. Now, why would I do it that way?
Well,
I don't get it.
It's pretty important, Pat, and I don't think I can walk you through all of the reasons here on this particular program, but it is important that you get that order right because so many people go out and they're protesting things they don't understand at all, and I think that did go on this weekend. I think there's one set of people I think on the left who invested in this narrative early that Kyle Rittenhouse was this they believe this happens all the time, right? Kyle Rittenhouse is this white supremacist who they think every day is Charlottesville, right? So every day there's these terrible people going around with their tiki torches trying to kill people. This is just an example where everyone kind of is aware of it. And I think there are the people on the left that have invested in that, and no amount of factual evidence is going to turn them around. I think there's another side of this which comes from the state, which is they realize, at least they believe, no charges back in August of 2020 on Kyle Rittenhouse means the city burns to the ground if they don't do anything. So they are now at the point where I don't think they believed for a second they were going to get a conviction on this case. They just charged him anyway, spent millions of dollars on the case, wasted everybody's time, ruined Kyle Rittenhouse's life, because they were scared if they didn't do it, the city would burn to the ground. And then they went through this whole charade knowing that they were not going to get a conviction because they didn't have any evidence. I mean, you saw their case, Pat. It was embarrassing in every way. Why would you go to try to put out a fire? I don't know.
Because it's Fire?
It's a fire. That's literally what he said.
It's burning things?
That was his response. Because it was on fire? Yes! That's why you go to put out a fire. Why did you do that? Well, I wanted to help my community. Was it your community? Kenosha? You don't live in Kenosha. Well, my dad lives in Kenosha, and he didn't add these details, but so he had a part-time job in Kenosha. His friend lived in Kenosha. His uncle lived in Kenosha. His aunt lived in Kenosha. His cousin lived in Kenosha. His grandma lived in Kenosha. Well, a lot of people lived in Kenosha, but you didn't live there, right? That's actually what the prosecutor said.
So bizarre.
A lot of people live in Kenosha. I don't know. Like, Pat, I don't live in Idaho. But if
you're in Idaho and there's a fire,
I'm going to try to put it out.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to try to call 911. I'm going to try to do whatever I can do to end the suffering of that community. I don't need to be part of the community to care about a community.
And it's like we're in Irving, Texas right now. If we were driving past Grapevine on the way home and we saw a fire that was, maybe we could help put it out right away before it spread. I think I would do it.
Yeah.
And I don't even live in Grapevine. I don't even have any relatives in Grapevine.
Yeah.
I still might help put out the fire.
It's not, quote unquote, my community.
No,
but
it's
I
not.
still care about it for some bizarre reason.
Because I'm a human
being, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that their case was so bad, I think that their calculation was at the beginning of this, if we don't do anything, the city's going to burn to the ground. So we'll charge them. We'll charge them excessively. He won't be convicted.
They did.
Yeah, sure, we'll ruin his life. And sure, all of this will go on. But at the end of the day, maybe
we'll save the community.
Maybe things have calmed down a little bit. And when we announce an innocent verdict, we can say to the community, look, we tried to stop this white supremacy. The jury didn't go along with it. And then maybe the city doesn't burn to the ground. And in this case, thankfully, it didn't. But it is a really bad lesson that we keep teaching, and incredibly disturbing that the government seems to do this over and over and over again. When there are media narratives, someone makes a documentary that makes somebody look bad. Oh, well, it's legally we can't charge them. Let's do it anyway. And then at the end of the day, we'll just say we tried. And everyone will think we're the good guys. And this is a really terrible thing. Because you watch that trial, Pat, and I don't know if you got the same feeling. We all understand how our jury system works and how our legal system works. And we understand that someone who's fighting for the defense of their client is supposed to do everything they can to try to get that person off. And I think that's a healthy thing to do, right? You want to have the defense attorney out there doing everything they can to get their client out, because we have a system that depends on innocent until proven guilty, right? Like the ball is supposed to be in the court of the defendant. And the state has to prove they are guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So the defendant should be doing everything they can within the bounds of almost, of the truth, but like the best possible view of the truth for their client. That should not be the goal of the state. The best possible view to put this person behind bars should not be their standard. It shouldn't just be say anything you can to get a conviction.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be going for the truth here. And yes, when you charge someone, you see the truth in a different light as the defendant. And you could disagree on things, but you shouldn't be making crap up. You shouldn't be challenging normal human interactions like trying to help a fellow human being with a medical issue or a fire.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense.
And they had to do that to try to win this case, and they shouldn't have tried it. We should have never been at the point where this was a case at a trial in the first place. And the prosecution did all sorts of things that walked over the line of what they should be doing. They lied constantly.
Plus, they were just butt stupid. Oh, I've never seen someone with a law degree be this stupid. I don't think.
Yeah, well,
I can't think of a place. We've seen a lot of trials over the years. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody this bad. And fortunately, because he didn't know the answers to the questions he was even asking, which is a prerequisite to asking the question in the first place. You better know what the guy is going to say when you ask the question.
Yeah.
Why did you put out the fire? Because it's a fire? What a dumb question to ask.
So stupid. I did have a thought at one point that I know there's a supply chain disruption. Is it affecting lawyers? Did they run out of them? Maybe they just found a guy on the street because there's just a short. Oh, there's a bunch of lawyers on a container ship off the coast of California that can't get to port, and we've run out of them.
Yeah,
because this guy was terrible. To be fair to him, though,
bad.
And it was the entire
had no
team.
case.
No case.
Yeah,
he had nothing to work with.
Yeah.
And that is the problem here. That's why it shouldn't have been a case. He shouldn't have had to embarrass himself. He shouldn't have been involved in it in the first place. And now Kyle Rittenhouse has his life ruined over clear self-defense, and the left will continue to turn him into a white supremacist until the day we all die.
It's Pat and Stu for Glenn. More coming up in 1 minute. Pat and Stu for Glenn on the Glenn Beck program. 888-727-BECK. We're talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, which fortunately the jury got right. Acquitted on all charges, which is awesome. In fact, he's acquitted on the charges that he shouldn't have been charged with any of these. But it's so easy to discount some of them, like the gun charge, which they initially said he had the gun illegally because he's 17.
Yeah.
Not the case.
Yeah. No, I mean,
not the case.
That's the only one that was even remotely close, right?
Yeah.
And the reason is because the statute is written in a very confusing way. It basically says he can't have the gun unless he can have the gun. It's kind of the way, it's like the main statute says no one under 18 can have a gun, but then it later on clarifies, okay, well, if it's a long gun, and then you can't. And some people take that as, well, only if you're hunting, which, again, the whole premise of the Kyle Rittenhouse trial is that he was hunting. That's the whole premise of it. We're supposed to believe he was there to hunt people.
Right.
Like he's in some really bad thriller. But so it was a little bit confusing, and that's why it was initially allowed. They argued successfully to get it thrown out. That was the only one that was even close.
A bunch of ridiculous and inaccurate things came up during this trial, like he killed 2 black BLM protesters, which we've already covered, not the case at all.
And we should point out, too, the first person he killed was not only not black, but also not a BLM protester. It was an insane person who but had just been released from a mental facility on a suicide attempt.
Jeez.
And who's also a child rapist. We should point out, was a child rapist. People keep saying child molester. Wow. I don't think that captures it. Don't think that captures it.
Wow.
I think child rapist would be the correct way of framing his previous activities, which don't necessarily have merit on this, don't really affect this particular case. Mm-hmm. But he was, I think what does make sense here, Pat, here's a guy who throughout the night, over and over again, says, shoot me. He tries to get in fights with people with guns. He uses all sorts of racial slurs and stuff to antagonize. He's just been released from a mental institution where he was captured because he was put in there because of a suicide attempt. I mean, it has every earmarking of someone who essentially was trying to get himself killed. And then he charges at a guy with a gun and tries to grab onto the gun.
Yeah.
I mean,
wow.
I don't know. There's a bit of speculation in that, but I don't think too much.
Pretty clear cut, though. I mean, that it was self-defense there.
100% self-defense. I'm just saying he may have, Rosenbaum, the first guy getting killed, I'm saying may actually have been intentionally trying to get himself shot. I mean, he did say on videos several times, shoot me. So
takes away some of the suspense, doesn't it? Yeah. Then the claim by everybody on the left that he crossed state lines. And I mean, you can cross state lines in America. He did not cross state lines with the gun, however, which may or may not have been a crime.
Well, and they really tried to use that as more of a thing to say, this guy.
He came from somewhere else.
Yeah.
20 miles up the road, 20 miles away.
Literally, his town is a border town. So, like, I used to live on the river that separates New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And so I would cross state lines to get pizza. Mm-hmm. And to get gas.
Plus, you and I cross state lines every day to go to work.
Yeah, every day.
You lived in Pennsylvania. I lived in Connecticut. We crossed into New York.
I crossed multiple
every
states.
Day. Yeah,
I crossed into New Jersey and then into New York every day. So, it's not that weird when you live on a borderline. It's just like where you go. New Jersey famously has lower gas prices than the surrounding states. So you constantly are going into New Jersey to get gas because whatever, ridiculous, thing. They have lower taxes there, which is shocking with New Jersey.
That is.
I know, but that's where they produce a lot of they refine a lot of the stuff. So,
and don't they still have people that pump gas, or has that stopped now?
I don't know. Last time I was there, it's been a while. They still had it, but they may have lifted that. But yeah, everything was full serve for years and years and years. After
everybody else stopped.
There was no full serve anywhere else in America, but it was legally required in New Jersey. But people, I will say that, and as much as I don't think that's a good law, there's cold days, and I am not above taking advantage of some poor worker who's out there in freezing cold temperatures to pump my gas.
Definitely.
That might be a bad person, but it also might be true.
888-727-BECK. More of Pat and Stu for Glenn coming up.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Black Friday is one of the biggest shopping days, as you know, and one of the biggest opportunities for scammers. Some of the most common scams include buying a gift online that never arrives, sellers demanding payment with gift cards, fake shopping websites, and fake delivery notifications. Honestly, all these cybercriminals are so industrious that if they just get a regular freaking job, they'd probably be amazing, productive members of society, but unfortunately, that's not the road they go down. It's important to understand how cybercrime and identity theft are affecting our lives. Every day, we put our information at risk on the internet. LifeLock helps you, though. They help detect a wide range of identity thefts and threats. And if you see one, if something happens, they will catch it. They will send you an alert. It'll give you access to a dedicated restoration specialist if you become a victim. It's way better than the old days where you were pretty much on your own. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but you can keep what's yours with LifeLock by Norton. Join now, save up to 25% off your first year with the promo code BECK. 1-800-LifeLock is the place to go, or head to lifelock.com. Use the promo code BECK for 25% off. It's 1-800-LifeLock or lifelock.com.
Christmas. It's Pat and Stu for Glenn on the Glenn Beck program, and being joined by Jeff Fisher.
Hello, Pat.
Jeffy has just shaved his head bald because he did it for charity.
I did.
If you can believe it.
I did. We raised some money for OUR, our rescue, and that's why I was pretending. I wasn't really Ben Franklin. I was pretending.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's good clarification there. Thank you for that.
I know you probably were misled.
Now, my understanding of your involvement in charity was mainly embezzlement. Is that not accurate?
I had nothing to do with this, though. This was all. They didn't allow me to touch any money at all, so it goes directly to the charity.
So this should actually help people.
It will help people,
unlike what you usually do.
I tried to say, if they just give the money to me, then I'll give it to you. It'll work. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, no one falls for that. Have you realized that over the years, Jeffy? That's interesting. We've known Jeffy for a very long time. Far too long.
Too long. Yeah.
But we have never seen him bald before.
I've never been bald. When we first met, Stu, you and I think I was probably a 1.
A 1 on the clippers?
On the top, yeah. Because I shaved down to a number 1 for a long time.
Mm-hmm. You just had stubble or something on top?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but never
like a crew
bald.
cut looking thing.
Mm-hmm. Never completely bald, though. It's kind of strange.
So how would you describe to the radio audience, Pat, what Jeffy looks like right now?
I would say like a Mr. Clean.
The Rock?
After he's let himself go for about 5 decades.
So Mr. Clean, after he lets himself
when he
go.
Stops lifting weights and doesn't care what he eats.
Now, Jeff,
all hours of the day and night.
Did you suggest The Rock?
I was thinking of The Rock myself.
Okay,
yeah.
that's
when I look in the mirror. That's what I see.
The Rock, if he were bald, fat, and stupid.
Well, and the thing is, the reason The Rock thing sounds a little.
What does that got to do with it?
The Rock thing sounds a little ridiculous for Jeffy.
It does.
However, I will say they eat the same diet. Famously, The Rock eats like 10,000 calories a day.
Yeah,
you just don't do the working out along with it, but you're doing half of The Rock's regimen.
That's true. That probably is true, right? Or others have pointed out maybe Uncle Fester.
Okay,
It might be
an
accurate way to describe the way Jeffy looks right now.
Uncle Fester. I could see that.
There's plenty of looks out there that I represent, but none of those people don't look as good as me. So, what I'm saying.
That's
That's
interesting.
what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a take.
That is one.
That is an available take that you could have. That one could muster up the bravery to.
Yeah.
It is kind of strange, though, to be, shave it completely off and be bald. Because then now it's going to be, to keep it that way, that's going to be work. I mean, that's because you got to shave the back of the neck and the top's got to come down.
Yeah, you don't want that.
I'm not a huge fan of work.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of it.
Understandable.
So,
Well, which is more work, shaving your head or washing your hair?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So
That's
that
a
might be
good-
an offset there.
Because
It's like a carbon offset.
Right.
without the hair, you might be able to eliminate the shower thing altogether.
Yeah, right.
And then you're in the position I think you want to be in,
Which you've
you
already
know?
pretty much done, haven't you? Other than once or twice a year.
Yeah, but if you don't shower, then I mean, now you're saving money on deodorant,
Right.
on any kind of cologne, any kind of other product.
True.
That's not a bad plan.
We also obviously did point out that you looked like Ben Franklin and you were dressed as Ben Franklin. You came on my program the other day on Friday as Ben Franklin, which seemed. I know it also came on Pat Gray Unleashed as Ben Franklin.
Yeah, they were the founding fathers of Ben
that
Franklin.
observation. Jeffy really does look like Ben Franklin, which is bizarre. However, the weirder thing I think on my particular show is it came right after the Rittenhouse verdict.
Okay.
So I was like getting Jeffy's actual take on the Rittenhouse verdict as Ben Franklin, which was a very strange.
I bet that is strange.
It was a strange show.
Yeah.
And you agree that this is justice, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, what if you actually paid attention?
Yeah.
There's no way that you could find this kid guilty. I don't even think that the trial should have gone on as long as it did. I mean, I believed really that the judge because it went on so long, the judge was waiting to see if the jury actually came back with the verdict that it should be, where he could, if they didn't, then he could throw a mistrial and just end it anyway.
It is one of those things where mistrial was the correct outcome, but I'm happier it went this way.
Yes, me too.
You know, I'm glad.
Me too.
It's not exactly the right outcome. I mean, they really should have never gone to trial. If it got to trial, they should have thrown it out. But like having a jury of our peers come together and say, okay, this is idiocy, is probably the best outcome once it gets to this point. But like this point should not be a place where we are. We shouldn't have gotten to this point. And it's a terrible statement on where we are as a society that you're without. I mean, what would have happened in this case if not for people like our own Elijah Schaefer and Richie McGinnis and Drew Hernandez and others who were there with their cameras pointed in the right direction at the right time. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind without that video, Kyle Rittenhouse is in prison for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for sure, I mean, I don't know.
And that's a mandatory sentence, by the way. Given the charges in Wisconsin, it's mandatory life without possibility of parole.
Right, and especially because his mother dropped him off across state lines.
Yeah, that makes it even worse.
I mean,
that adds another level to the
it sure
felony.
does. Thank you.
You can't have your mom drop you off at a felony. You can't.
That's
it's wrong. So
what was that? What was the purpose of that particular one? Because there's a bunch of myths out there. Maybe we could go through some of them. But there's a bunch of myths out there, and one of them is his mom drove him across state lines, which
the riot. Like, okay, honey, we're at the riot. Hop out
It's
now.
riot
I'll be
time.
back. I'll be back at what, 11:30, or after everything's done burning? After everything's burned to the ground, I'll be back to pick you up. Okay, sweetie?
Call me.
Be at the corner there.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so weird.
It's got to be that they're trying to make it that she's complicit, right?
Or she
don't
can
know.
get charged too. I don't know. I mean, and I
weird.
guess it's pointing out that maybe someone who has your mommy drive you to the riot shouldn't have a weapon. Maybe that's the insinuation there. But it really doesn't.
Well, yeah, because that came along at the same time that they tried to say that he brought the weapon across state lines too.
Yes,
right?
that was a big
But
part
it's
of it.
even
Also not
worse
true.
if you bring your weapon across state lines with your mom
your mother.
driving.
Yeah, that's a double offense. It's in the Constitution.
Yeah, it is.
That one's very, very, very strange to me. There's also the Let's see.
Rittenhouse is a white supremacist.
That one's a great one.
Then candidate Joe Biden labeled him in a tweet.
Yeah, with the video, his white supremacy video.
Yeah,
with just the picture
and the picture of
Kyle.
Kyle, yeah.
And quickly wanted to go back to the state lines thing for 1 second. One of the things I thought was interesting about this is it was also trying to paint this idea that he was some interloper, right? Like some guy who basically like a mercenary flying in from halfway across the country just to shoot black people.
Right. Well, we've talked about all the riots, people being bussed in and came in for the riots, right? So this was the way of saying, oh, the white supremacists are bringing people into the riots as well.
It's the everyday is Charlottesville sort of case. But what's interesting about this is the third guy that he shot, Gage Grosskreis. This is the guy who actually he lived. He had his arm sort of blown off, and he was the guy who pointed a gun and admitted it. And pointed a gun at Rittenhouse before he fired. He's from 40 miles away. He drove 40 miles to get to the same
state lines, though.
No, it was in the same state.
Okay.
But it was 40. Okay. He went twice the distance of Kyle Rittenhouse.
Did he drive himself?
Not across state lines. And his mom didn't drive it.
Okay, that's true.
Thank you.
So
it's very fair point.
There you go.
The white supremacist thing is just one of those things that's a figment of their imagination. Yeah. And this happens with a lot of mass shootings, where immediately they jump to this must have been a white supremacist right off the bat. It's some Christian conservative Trump supporter person who went and shot everybody. And then we find out later on, it was maybe an Islamic extremist or maybe nothing to do with any of this. Maybe it was just a crazy person. But that's very standard practice for the left and the media. We went over the gun stuff, which obviously was thrown out of court. It was so wrong. That is another one. We had, the Kyle Rittenhouse didn't have any relation to the city. I think we've already pretty much dispatched of that one already on the program today.
Yep.
Kyle Rittenhouse fired the first shot of the night.
No.
No, I didn't.
No.
He was not the only. There was another person who said, Kyle Rittenhouse was the only one who fired a weapon that night. Have you watched the video once?
Jeez.
It's incredible.
No,
it is.
First
it
of
is
all,
incredible.
Someone before Kyle Rittenhouse did not take the first shot. Someone shot what they think is a weapon into the air, and that's what he thought was happening to him. He thought someone was shooting at him, which is when he first turned around and fired his weapon to kill Rosenbaum. But as the crazy part of that video is after the whole interaction happens, he's running down the street, he gets tackled, he shoots the two people, fires his weapon again, gets up, starts walking to surrender to police, and in the background, I think it's 16 shots go off. 16!
But he was the only one shooting.
He was the only one shooting. I don't know how he did it. Maybe with his mind? I don't know exactly how he fired those bullets because he's on video and not shooting.
I like he flashed white power signs with Proud Boys. Again, he did do some things that maybe weren't the best things to do at the time, given the circumstances. Like after he had spent 3 months in jail, he got out on $2 million bail. And so I guess to kind of celebrate, he went to a bar. It was 2 days after his 18th birthday. He went to his bar with his mom and some others, which is legal.
Did his mom drive him across state lines?
I think they were in Kenosha, so I think they were within the state of Wisconsin, and I think they stayed that way. But he posed for selfies with a couple of strangers at the bar. The media say they're Proud Boys. I have no idea if they're Proud Boys or if they're embarrassed boys or if they don't identify as boys. I don't know. But he did flash the OK sign. How many times has Biden done that? Nobody ever says, well, that's a white supremacist sign. Joe Biden's a white supremacist. Why is Joe Biden doing the white supremacist sign? Why? But, maybe you don't pose with people for pictures when you're in jail and coming up on charges of
when he was out on bail, there are a few times that I've been out on bail.
Really,
I don't think you're supposed to drink.
And he was only 18, so was he drinking? I don't remember.
But that's legal, right? It's 18 in Wisconsin.
Is it? No, it's 21 nationally, isn't it? It's only 20. It's 21. I don't know. I could be wrong on that.
I think you can go to the bar. I don't know if you can drink. I think that's what they're saying. It's legal to do because he can go in there with them as long as he's not drinking.
I don't know. I always thought it was 21, but I think
so too.
This is not the type of law that Jeffy would would
know,
follow.
right.
I mean, we could all. There are certain restrictions.
I just said
that
I
are,
would. When you're out on bail, you don't drink. That's the deal.
There are certain restrictions that Jeffy's just not going to pay attention to, and that's, I would say, about 70% of the legal code.
Yeah. 888-727-BECK.
You have homeowners insurance for a good reason, because without it, a fire, a flood, burglary could destroy you financially. I happen to have experienced the glorious outcome of flooding in your house, and I can tell you, it's a lot of fun. Also, I've never been more grateful, I think, than to have really good coverage. And if you don't have coverage for an incident like this, you're gonna hate life. There's another major crime. This is a homeowner's policy, and it's something that they don't even cover, honestly. It's called home title fraud. It's one of the fastest growing crimes in America. It can absolutely ruin you financially, which is why you need Home Title Lock. Title fraud happens when a criminal forges your signature on documents stating that you sold your home to them. Then he takes out loans against your home and leaves you with the payments. You'll spend a fortune in legal fees trying to prove you didn't commit some crazy crime you've never even heard of before. Home Title Lock puts a barrier around your home's title. The instant they detect anything, from cyber thief to a renter to a relative trying to forge their way onto your home's title, they can help shut it down. If you value your home and your peace of mind, the best thing you can do is go to HometitleLock.com, register your address, and see if you're already a victim. If you do that, you can get 30 risk-free days of protection right now. HometitleLock.com. The code is radio to get those 30 risk-free days of protection. HometitleLock.com. The code is radio.
It's Pat and Stu for Glenn on the Glenn Beck program, joined by Jeffy. Just got some chewing the fat items.
Well, I just wanted to let you guys know, because I know you guys like pizza as much as I do.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I wanted to be sure that you like Papa John's pizza, right?
I do. That's solid.
Well, they're changing their name. And I want to be sure you know how to order it now for the future, because Papa John's is changing their name to Papa John's. So I don't know if
Papa John's is changing their name to Papa John's.
So I just want to be sure you know that.
Wow.
Now it's going to be.
How will I find it?
Well, it's going to be without the apostrophe. So
Hey, that's not a name change.
they're changing it. Yeah, they're changing their name from Papa John's
To
Papa John's. So that's how you find it. And if you have the app on your phone, the name change has already happened for the picture and the logo of the app.
You need to not use the apostrophe when you're dialing up the app.
Right, when you use the app, not use the apostrophe. But the printed version underneath the new logo of Papa John's still has the apostrophe.
Oh, wow. I'm really confused
it's
now.
confused.
Well, what's with the website? Do you have to take out the apostrophe on the website now?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you do.
Interesting.
You do.
So
if you type in Papa John's with an apostrophe,
nothing.
nothing will
You get an
Nothing.
error
How they just
message.
abandoned it?
404 error.
Because I would think, I'm trying to think of this. I don't think I put apostrophes into web addresses,
Really?
right?
How do you get to the actual website?
I think I
then?
would just type in Papa John's.
Well, yeah, of course it's going to come up now. That just changed.
Would it come up with an apostrophe? I don't even.
Better not.
I don't think so. Is that even like part? How does the internet work? Does anyone know? It's just you don't have it anyway. It was always just Papa John's without an apostrophe.
No, it wasn't.
On the website.
On the website.
On the website, yeah.
So
you've been ordering from the wrong Papa John's website.
Imagine
What's
that.
been happening?
There's some like Chinese bot outfit that bought up Papa John's with an apostrophe, and they've been just delivering pizzas to my house. We're using like subpar ingredients. It's possible.
It is possible.
Now, is this part of they're pushing back against because then they have like some sort of controversy with the owner guy?
Yes, the actual Papa John. This is like a slap in his face. Right, the actual Papa John's, because they got rid of him a couple of years ago for his racist comments on a conference call.
Mm-hmm. But wait, so now it's not the guy's name, right? It's no longer John. It's not his thing. So John is like what? Like a person who goes to a prostitute? Like what is the John usage now?
Makes me like the pizza a little bit more.
The bathroom? Isn't it they call it the John?
Yes. Yeah,
like
they
if it's
do.
not a person's name, John does not have a good connotation with food.
And now it's better pizza, better ingredients, no apostrophe. That's their big selling point.
Okay, yeah.
What? Now that's going to be really exciting.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Hey there, I'm Hillary. Welcome back to the 4-Minute Buzz. Now let's continue with some of today's top stories. President Biden's Build Back Better bill had a big victory last Friday as House Democrats voted in majority to approve it. President Biden has consistently said that this bill, which costs over $2 trillion, will not add any money to America's deficit. But reports are coming out saying the opposite. According to a report from the Congressional Budget Office, a nonpartisan fiscal scorekeeper, the Build Back Better bill will actually add $367 billion to the deficit by 2031. Well, when pressed about this during a press conference, Press Secretary Jen Psaki doubled down on the administration's claim.
Moving on to the Build Back Better plan, is the president going to stop saying that the Build Back Better plan does not increase the deficit 1 single cent if we now know that that is not true?
It is true, and I would note the several economists and experts out there. I think you're probably talking about the CBO score,
which Joe Biden himself in 2010 called the gold standard for Democrats and Republicans.
Well, Peter, since we're all here to communicate with the public about accurate information, what I would just note is that one of the components that experts, Democrats and Republicans, including former heads of the CBO, have pointed to is that IRS enforcement is not something that there's a lot of experience in the CBO scoring. They still scored it, but is undervalued by the assessment of many economists and experts, including people who have been critical of us in the past, who estimate, including former Treasury secretaries of both parties, who estimate there will be significant savings, significantly higher than what is estimated currently.
Well, meanwhile, in COVID news, Dr. Fauci has made some interesting claims regarding the COVID vaccine. Reports have been circling regarding the COVID booster shot and if that booster shot will soon be required to be considered fully vaccinated. Well, when asked about this change, Dr. Fauci was unclear on when this change would occur, but did say that it was a possibility in the future, saying, quote, "We're going to take a look right now at what the durability is of the booster. We're going to follow people who get boosted." And in more COVID vaccine news, Dr. Fauci had some things to say regarding the vaccine availability for infants and toddlers. He said in a statement to Business Insider that while he can't guarantee it, that, quote, hopefully within a reasonably short period of time, likely the beginning of next year in 2022, in the first quarter of 2022, it will be available to them. Next, Virginia's Lieutenant Governor-elect Winsome Sears made headlines after she was on with CNN's Dana Bash, where they discussed CRT. Listen to the two clash over the issue and why many praised Winsome Sears after the discussion.
Explain how you think race should be taught in Virginia public schools.
Well, let me back up. I beg to differ that CRT is not taught.
I didn't say that. I just said it's not in the curriculum, just to be clear.
No. It is part of the curriculum. It's weaved in and out of the curriculum. In fact, in 2015, former governor, who was just defeated, McAuliffe, his state board of education had information on how to teach it. So it's weaved in. So, it's semantics, but it's weaved in. What we want to say, and what Governor-elect Youngkin has said, is that all of history must be taught, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because what we learn from history, Dana, is that we don't learn from history, and we continue to repeat the same mistakes.
Well, and finally, a recent report revealed that over half of the New York Police Department wishes they had never joined. After an internal investigation, multiple shocking discoveries were made, including 56% of officers wish they had never joined the force, and 80% of officers claimed they were hesitant to fight crime. One veteran in the force said, quote, "The far left-leaning politics are absolutely destroying the city of New York." I'm Hillary. That's your 4-Minute Buzz. Now here's Pat and Stu with another hour of the show.
Thanks, Hillary. Not to mention every other major city in America. So, yes, far left politics are destroying every major urban city.
Did you have Michael Schellenberger on over his latest book?
I did a while ago. Yeah.
So I think you're thinking of the climate book, right?
Yes. 45. Oh, he's got a new book
out. It's called San Francisco. You should have him on about it. You'd like it. It's basically how progressives ruin cities.
Okay. No, I haven't had him on that.
Because he lives in San Francisco. It's all about like the homelessness issues and like how there was this change, and he used to work again in this sort of movement back when it was somewhat sane, and trying to rehab people and stuff like that. And it's changed from look, we want to try to rehab people, not necessarily treat them all as criminals on their first offense. But on the other side, it's now turned into like they can do whatever they want. Want to take a crap on the sidewalk, like go ahead, and don't do anything about it. And if you do something about it, you're hateful. So he's pushing back against that. It's pretty interesting.
Wow.
What you are about to hear is the fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
It's Pat and Stu for Glenn on the Glenn Beck Program, 888-727-BECK. We got to finish up on our Kyle Rittenhouse discussion. He was acquitted on all charges, but the left doesn't like it, including people in the Joe Biden administration as well. That and lots more coming up in 60 seconds.
The Glenn Beck Program.
If you haven't checked out RecTech yet, I can't stress enough that you really need to do this. The time is now. You do not want to miss their Black Friday sale. Serious grillers and smokers that RecTech has been providing for a long time. This is the way to go on Black Friday. It's got smart grill technology, which means that it maintains a constant temperature all throughout the cooking process. You can monitor it from an app on your phone or device, which is the coolest thing, because if you happen to live somewhere where it's going to be very cold here, you can still use the thing in the winter. Stay inside, watch the temperature on your phone. If you happen to live somewhere down south where it's 500,000 degrees in the summer, you just turn the thing, get the thing going, go inside in the air conditioning, monitor it from your phone. It's incredible, and it's it's the best you can get. RecTech, it'll take grilling, smoking, even baking to the next level. RecTech's Black Friday sale has already begun. You could save up to $415. Order right now and get your grill for the holidays with free shipping on all pellet grills. Go to rectech.com. It's RECTEQ, RecTech with a Q at the end. Rectech.com, RECTEQ.com.
It's Pat and Stu for Glenn, 888-727-BECK. Despicable, I think, describes what both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have said about the Kyle Rittenhouse trial and the verdict.
And all the other things they've done in their lives and recently.
It's very true.
It does seem to be
Thank you for that addendum. Because that's
I didn't mean to broaden it too much there, Pat, but just
but
all the things they've done ever would fall into those categories.
Pretty much. So Kamala Harris got back from, I think, Europe and ran up to talk to the press that was gathered there. And here's what she had to say about the verdict.
It's a little quiet.
Yeah,
she should
so
speak
far.
Oh, there she is.
Judge Scripps, and they have questions about the verdict. And the verdict really speaks for itself. As many of you know, I've spent a majority of my career working to make the criminal justice system more equitable, and clearly there's a lot more work to do. Thanks.
Really? What exactly wasn't equitable about this trial? What are you talking about?
It really is a shining example of what a jury can do and how the system's supposed to work. When everyone in the world is saying, oh, you should do X, Y, or Z, they do the opposite because that's the law. Yeah. That's how this is supposed to work. Yeah. I will say, if you couldn't pick out exactly what she was saying, it's because she was outdoors wearing a mask while fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
It didn't. You couldn't understand
around
her.
Nobody. And she's maybe 10 feet from the reporters.
Right. She's outdoors. By the way, if you've ever been on a tarmac, it is the windiest place on earth. I don't know what it is. Big open fields. It acts like a wind tunnel.
Yeah.
So the ventilation, very good in this particular area. She's outdoors. She's fully vaccinated.
Take the mask down.
She's probably been boosted. I don't know that for a fact, but probably. Yeah. And she's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So absolutely no reason. As the New York Times has stated, there are no cases worldwide that have ever been documented of outdoor transmission outside of close conversation.
It's incredible.
None.
It's incredible.
The entire pandemic. Yet she's out there fully vaccinated, wearing a mask at a tarmac. It's
stupid.
Inexplicable. That's not the whole point of this, of course. Her point being this, and I think, we can go over Biden's statement as well. Both of them seem designed to not be, a rioter at a BLM, riot, right? Like it's supposed to be like, look, we respect the verdict, of course, but now let me say that it was obviously wrong.
They're
trying to have their cake and eat it too here.
Yeah. Biden had this to say.
Do you have any reactions to the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict?
I just heard a moment ago.
Do you have any reactions?
I didn't watch the trial, so
Do you stand by your past comment equating him to white supremacy?
Well, look, I stand by what the jury has concluded. The jury system works, and we have to abide by it.
Okay, so the jury system works, and we have to abide by it.
Good energy there.
Yeah, he's the worst. He's the worst.
But I mean,
he already made himself really clear on this. He thinks he was pissed off about the verdict.
Yeah, his written statement was worse, which is funny because you'd think it would be the opposite way, right? If you're going to come out and you're going to say, look, I think I'm really mad about it. I'm angry. There's a lot of feelings of anger, but look, it's the jury system. That's what he said in the written statement.
Yeah,
the written statement said, hey, the jury's, you got to stick by the jury, but we have all sorts of major problems of equity in the jury system, or whatever the heck he said. It was something of that to that note. He's
had
just
nothing
saying,
to do with this trial anyway.
Yeah,
they keep making it sound as if this is a person on trial for some racial crime.
Yep,
where it doesn't fit at all. He's not even charged with that. Nobody was of a different race in this thing.
All the same, all whiteys. It's really bad. Now I have real sympathy for the viewpoint he's trying to say at the beginning of that, which is, I'm the president of the United States. I'm not watching all your stupid trials.
Yeah.
That should be his stance, and also why he shouldn't say something like, this guy's a white supremacist at the beginning. Right? He doesn't need to comment on every case.
True.
I understand that America was sort of captured with their attention here with this, and I think it was worth our time. But, not necessarily something that the president needs to comment on at all. And if he does comment on it, saying the jury system is the way this thing works and we respect it, that is a wise thing to say. It's unfortunately following a lot of dumb things he's already said about it. And then in the written statement to make it worse is inexcusable. A lot of people are saying Kyle Rittenhouse should actually sue Joe Biden by name individually. Now we know he's probably going to go sue a bunch of media sources, which he should. You're going to have to. It's a tough road here because commentators have a lot of freedom to say all sorts of things, which is a good feature of our society, generally speaking. But when you do something like this, especially a person who is not a public figure in any way, when most of these things were said at the very beginning, you probably do have some responsibility for that.
Somebody who might be in trouble as far as a lawsuit is concerned might be The Intercept. The Intercept used the term white supremacist 16 times in talking about Kyle Rittenhouse. 16 times. I mean,
and there's no evidence
of
this whatsoever.
Absolutely zero.
It is completely a figment of their imagination.
In fact, tonight, apparently, we're going to hear on Tucker Carlson that he's a BLM supporter.
Yeah, he said he supports their movement.
Yeah, he supports the movement. He wants it to be peaceful. Which is why he went to Kenosha in the first place, because he knew that there was rioting and he was there to defend businesses. But he said he supports the BLM movement. That doesn't sound like a white supremacist to me.
It's a really bad white supremacist. Though really I will say, bad. And I know our audience has sympathies for Kyle Rittenhouse, but you have to be honest about it. He is the worst white supremacist of all time.
Yeah, terrible.
The man keeps shooting white people.
Yeah.
When you're a white supremacist, you're supposed to shoot people of other races. And he has not figured this out. And then he's now supporting Black Lives Matter, which is the opposite of white supremacy.
He's not doing it right. He's not doing white supremacy properly.
And this is why, youth is wasted on youth. because here he is out there protesting, and he doesn't even understand how to be a white supremacist. He doesn't get it at all. He has no writings about it. He has no postings about it. There's simply no evidence that he's a white supremacist at all. And white supremacy, if nothing else, is defined by them talking about it all the time.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be a good white supremacist, you're supposed to be posting constantly about white supremacy. He never does it. What is wrong with this kid?
Has he even shown up on 4chan or 8chan or 12chan? None of the chans.
He's
has
like
he shown up on?
free.
Wow.
I mean, this is
ridiculous.
just an embarrassing set of white supremacy credentials.
It's embarrassing.
It's really, really bad. And of course, we're told, Pat, over and over again that he was shooting BLM protesters, which I think, for whatever reason, has people believing that he shot black people, which of course we know is not true. And he did shoot at, as we mentioned, the one African-American who is nicknamed Jump Kick Man. But other than that, and he did not hit him, by the way. So it was not even part of the trial.
And he shot at him only because the Jump Kick Man got his name from jump kicking Kyle Rittenhouse. In the head. While he was on the ground. Because you know how good let me just paint this picture for you. How good does it feel when a flying foot of an adult male hits the top of your head while the back of your, the other side of your head is on concrete? That feels really good. Yeah. I'm sure he was appreciative of that gesture. Sure he was.
So you have that sort of thing going on. But we also should note that these are not like the angelic BLM protester that the media might imagine. That's not who these people were. The guy, Jump Kick Man, they did eventually figure out who he was. They did identify him. He tried to offer his testimony. They didn't take it, which is weird, right? Here's a guy that Kyle Rittenhouse shot at. It was involved in the charges, and yet he offered his testimony and they didn't take it. Why? Well, I will tell you why, Pat.
Okay, tell me why.
He tried to exchange his testimony to get off on the various crimes he's wanted for around the city.
So he said, I will testify
if you get rid of these charges against me. And the city's like, no, there's a lot here, so no. And he was just the one we didn't even know his name. Gage Grosskreutz, who's the guy who came across 40 miles, but not state lines to come to the riot, as opposed to Kyle Rittenhouse, who went 20 miles but did cross state lines. He had all sorts of stuff in his criminal history. Drunk driving. Okay. He was being drunk with a gun. All right, you're not supposed to do that. Burglary.
Oh.
Who among us
hasn't burgled?
Hasn't burgled a few times. The Hamburglers certainly done it. He's not in prison.
No, he's
Mayor
not.
McCheese seems fine with it.
Yeah,
at times.
He does.
I mean, he does go after him, and there is a Mayor McCheese style prison at some playgrounds, which is a strange thing to teach kids. But that's a whole that's a whole different story.
Another topic.
Harassing his ex-girlfriend. Now, my understanding of the Me Too movement was if you've done nothing wrong in your entire life and you harass an ex-girlfriend, you're excommunicated from society, which is a standard I'm not all that uncomfortable with, frankly. I'm kind of fine with it. If you're harassing women, bye-bye, right? Well, that's not the case with Gage Grosskreutz. He's their star witness, and everyone's cheering him on. He also hit his freaking grandmother. Now, I don't condone of violence against others, and I certainly don't condone of it against women. I really don't condone it against your grandmother. You should not hit your grandmother. This is a line I thought our society was generally aligned with, but no, apparently not. Now, the reason he might not get any attention for all of these other previous charges, and they're not necessarily tied into this case, but as we know, we see the full profile painted often of these people, is because right before this case began, he was also got in trouble for doing something, which was prowling. What do you mean by prowling? Well, he seemed to be videotaping and recording the license plates and personal vehicles of area police officers. Now, why would one do such a thing? The police officer drives away in their cop car. They have their whole day where they're driving around doing their job. They come back, they get into the regular car and go home. Why would one need to have the information of the personal vehicles of the police officers.
Perhaps so you could post them?
I don't know. I guess we'll never know. But he was charged with that as well.
Interesting.
We have the history, the much, in some ways, worse history of the other two people involved in this as well. We'll get to that here in a second. But first, let me tell you about Genucel. This holiday season, as you're spending time with friends, family, wouldn't you like to also look your best? If the answer to that question is yes, you need the best in skincare from Genucel. Right now, you can get 60% off Genucel's most popular packages at Genucel.com. You can treat yourself or someone you love that you're going to get a gift for to all the favorites that they have, which target things like forehead wrinkles, dark spots, droopy eyelids, sagging jawline, even the annoying bags and puffiness. You can watch them disappear before your eyes. And you may be a skeptic on that claim. I can understand that. What do you mean it's going to disappear before your eyes? Well, Genucel's immediate effects, you're going to see results in 12 hours or less. And that is guaranteed, or your money back. So you're not risking anything here. That's an amazing turnaround time. You can check it out, and don't worry about not getting your Genucel products on time, because every product is manufactured right here in the USA. For only a few more days, you get your complimentary spa package absolutely free at checkout as well. You can gift yourself a world-class spa experience with the luxurious Chamonix microdermabrasion treatment and botanical infused cleanser and toner. Go to Genucel.com, enter the promo code BECK35 at checkout for an additional $35 off. And during Black Friday week, you can get a surprise luxury gift as well. Go to Genucel.com. The code is BECK35. It's GENUCEL.com. Code is BECK35. 10 seconds, station ID.
It's Pat and Stu for Glenn on the Glenn Beck program. All right, we're going over some of the background of the BLM protesters.
Innocent protesters.
Innocent, wonderful protesters who were summarily shot by this white supremacist kid who drove across state lines
with his mom.
With his mom. And an AR-15 hanging out the window the whole time.
If we know anything about our legal system, it's that moms cannot transport their kids across state lines.
No. And certainly not drop them off at a riot.
No. Especially
unacceptable.
When they're going down to hunt black people and
so
innocent protesters.
True, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
None of that's true. But what is true about these guys?
So Anthony Huber, who was the second person that died in this incident with Kyle Rittenhouse. He is the one who hit him with the skateboard. You may remember that from the video. So he had weapons charges in his past, but again, who among us? False imprisonment. Sometimes you're going to have to stop another human being from going where they want to go. I mean, that's just part of life.
Falsely imprisoned
someone else.
He wasn't falsely imprisoned.
No.
He was imprisoning.
Yes.
I see.
Also, repeated domestic abuse over and over and over again, and including strangulation. So nice. Now, apparently the person didn't die, thankfully, but a list of charges that is longer than mine, I will say, by a considerable amount. So now Joseph Rosenbaum, who is the worst of the bunch, I would say. He's the first person who was shot. He's also, insane and, has all sorts of mental problems, or did at least. He spent over a decade in prison for child molestation. Now, that is something you may have heard, because that one maybe leaked out a little bit to the internet. But I had to go through this for Stu Does America last week. We went through all the Rittenhouse myths. And unfortunately, I had to read the complaint. And it's one of those things I wish I had not done, looking at it, because child molestation really undersells it. But he had just left a mental hospital over a suicide attempt. He was threatening people. He was asking people to be shot. This is on video. And he has a very lengthy criminal history, including the child molestation, which was a group of 5 kids between the ages of 9 and 11, if I'm remembering it correctly. And it included everything you'd think of when someone says the word child molestation. However, it goes beyond that to everything you'd think of when you heard child rapist. I mean, the man was a child rapist and spent only a decade in prison, which I don't know how. We charge people who like insider trading with longer prison sentences than this guy got for child rape, but multiple counts, not just one of these kids. I think it was 2 of the kids, absolutely unquestionable child rape, and then multiple other charges against him. Now, because he committed this crime years ago, does not mean you were allowed to shoot him if you see him in the street for that crime.
But that's not what happened anyway.
That's not what happened anyway. And number 2, the reason why this stuff is important is because there is no evidence. Grosskreutz seemed to be an anti-police activist, right? So at least he was actually there, in theory, to be involved in that riot. It's not a good thing, but at least he was tied to the BLM riot and might back up the claims from the media that he was shooting protesters in some way. Rosenbaum seems like he's just an insane person who was out there literally asking people to shoot him and was a criminal who had there's no reason to believe he was supporting the BLM cause being there. Not that they would want his support, I'm sure. Usually people who have child rapists as their supporters don't necessarily want that to occur. So this is these are all people with either massive problems or worse. Inexcusable, unforgivable problems. And the media has portrayed them because they want this kid who's the exact opposite, who doesn't have any of these things on his record.
Yeah.
And they want to make him to be the bad guy so badly they will just completely brush all of this under the carpet. It's amazing. Black is white and white is black. We are at up is down and down is up.
Yep.
This is not the right way to run a civilization, Pat. we should find another way, because this way is not working out so well.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
American Financing, NMLS 182334, www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org.
Here's a message that came in from Diana, who wanted to let us know about her experience with American Financing. She writes, I worked with Cindy, who was amazing from beginning to the end. She guided me through the entire process from getting qualified for a loan to the closing date. She was attentive and always followed up regarding the statutes of the loan, the documentation that was needed. She was prompt in returning phone calls and emails. Cindy was a team player and collaborated with my realtor, the little company, and the seller in order to stay on track and on top of everything. I would 100% recommend her and American Financing to any future clients. Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, American Financing. We get these all the time. I mean, we could give you these every single day because so many people in the audience have gone and worked with American Financing and had great experiences. When you pick up the phone and call American Financing, you're making a decision that could positively affect you and your family's whole lives. They're not working for the banks. They're working for you. No pressure, no hidden fees, nothing like that. Just the best of the best when it comes to helping you run your finances. American Financing, 800-906-2440, or go to AmericanFinancing.net. It's AmericanFinancing.net.
It's Pat and Stu for Glenn on the Glenn Beck program. 888-727-BECK, number to call. Another really tragic, weird event happened last night at a Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Wisconsin just getting pummeled with things right now. And there's some speculation that the two, the verdict in the trial and the parade thing where a red Ford Explorer went barreling through the parade watchers might be connected. No idea yet. We don't know.
No. And here's something interesting, Pat, I noticed. It's weird how conservatives aren't just jumping on that bandwagon.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know. Could it be Muslim terrorists? Yes, could, sure. Based on other things we've seen around the world. Could it be somebody really pissed off about the verdict? Yes. But do we know that? No, of course not.
Right.
It could be some guy who's just
insane,
or a woman crazy, out of their minds.
I mean, if people have said terrible things about women drivers in the past,
that's true.
I don't think that applies here. I think it is a guy. We do know that. I think at least
I think so.
They are questioning someone. Let's put it that way.
A person of interest.
Questioning someone. A 39-year-old multiple-time felon. Shockingly.
Oh.
The interesting thing about crime, Pat, is when you do it once, twice, 3 times, a lady, you tend to continue to do it. And the whole keeping the people who commit multiple crimes behind bars thing has earned a bad reputation here recently. But, second look, because this does seem to be the case over and over and over again, as we just outlined in our previous segment. Usually people who commit crimes commit lots of crimes. At least some of them do. When some people commit one crime and they are able to turn their life around, and great. That's fantastic. When you start committing all these crimes in a row, we went down that road of 3 strike laws, and those things are very unpopular right now. We've come around on that, and some of that is warranted. But man, you want to know how to lower crime rates? It's keeping the people who have committed multiple crimes over and over and over again in prison, where they can't commit more crimes. That's what happens. But anyway, this guy his name is Darrell E. Brooks Jr., Milwaukee man with a criminal history dating back to 1999.
So they've named the guy now.
Yeah. I mean, they are saying that this is the person they're holding for questioning. So everyone is reporting that is essentially, it's the way they say, without charges being filed, that this is the guy that did it. Anyway, that's at least allegedly. Multiple law enforcement officers and sources told Fox News that the 39-year-old longtime felon was being questioned in connection with the attack. He had a red SUV. If you've seen any of the video, and I've gone out of my way to not see the video, I understand police need to watch it. I do not need to watch it. I kind of understand intellectually what occurred here, and it's really ugly. 5 people are dead, probably going to be higher than that at the end. 40 injured. I mean, they drove through a freaking parade for Christmas where children were involved. I mean, this is one of the worst things that I can imagine. Some of the victims were children, but he has had his most recent court appearance came back all the way. Pat, I don't know how old you were back here, but November 5th, 2021.
Oh,
how old were you?
Back on November 25th?
No, November 5th.
Oh, November 5th.
Yeah, so that's a long time ago. Of 2021.
Wow. Was I born?
I think you were. You were a kid, but you were born.
Yeah, I think I was 12.
Yeah.
I think I was 12 years old on November 5th of this year.
He was charged for reckless endangerment, battery, domestic abuse, resisting arrest, and bail jumping, which is a very busy day.
It's a busy day.
Just a lot of stuff going on there. He was out on $1,000 bail for those charges at the time of the attack.
Ooh, a full $1,000.
$1,000, which is really...
don't you have to come up with 10% of it? Usually, isn't that?
Yeah, that's the way bail works.
I think so.
We should ask Jeffy when he was
so
in.
Like $100. He might have to come up with $100 to get out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now Kyle Rittenhouse had $2 million.
$2 million.
Interesting. In July 2020, police charged him with 3 other felonies, including reckless endangerment and being a felon in possession of a firearm. He's listed as a Tier 2 registered sex offender in Nevada.
Oh my gosh.
Background check from Wisconsin's Department of Justice came back with over 50 pages of charges against Brooks, stretching back decades. In 1999, he received his first felony conviction for taking part in an aggravated battery, for which he received 3 years of probation, records show. He was convicted of obstructing an officer, 2005, 2003. In 2002, he had a felony marijuana charge. 2010, he pleaded no contest to felony strangulation charges. 2012, he pleaded guilty to misdemeanor bail jumping and marijuana charges. A year earlier, he pleaded guilty to felony marijuana charges and resisting arrest. He's also appeared in music videos.
Really?
Yeah.
For whom?
Do
we know anybody
he's
we know?
appeared to use the pseudonym Math Boy Fly in music videos. Is also associated with a couple of other aliases. One of Brooks's videos, which has been removed from YouTube, showed a red Ford SUV that resembles the one plowing into a crowd at the parade. So this guy is a terrible criminal that should have been. You do this many things. How are you out on the streets doing
50
anything?
pages of crimes? No, I'm sorry.
Pat,
you should be in jail.
You and I have long aligned under the standard that no more than 49 pages of charges.
When did we first bring up the 49-page rule? I think it was like the late 70s,
yeah,
wasn't it?
Late 70s.
Yeah.
We united. We said, you know what? Maybe we can rehabilitate someone with 48 and 49 pages of charges, but after
49, no,
that's too much.
I'm sorry, you got to stay in jail.
Too much, too far,
Prison.
Pat.
Yeah.
So this incident, which is, among one of the worst things I can think of, especially considering we're in the middle of the holiday season. We're all probably going to be going to these similar events. It's going to run through everybody's head. And it just is another step down this road of what on earth has happened to us. How can this happen? Now, as you mentioned, Pat, there's some speculation about this. We are not going to do what the people did to Kyle Rittenhouse, right? We are not going to, I don't even know for sure that this is the person, though law enforcement is saying basically that's the case here. But like, I'm talking more about motivation. I'm not going to guesstimate what his motivation was. We obviously know around the world often this has been a tactic of Islamic extremists. Mm-hmm. They do not, there's no indication, though, that this guy is tied to Islamic extremists at this time. We also, obviously, in the same state, had the big Rittenhouse verdict come out. So a lot of people jumped to the conclusion that, hey, maybe this is tied. Maybe it is. Maybe we'll find that out. At this point, we don't have any evidence to support that. So we're not going to accuse him of it, right? Like, we'll certainly look into it, make sure we understand. Could he just be a crazy person? Could he be just a criminal? Well, this has come out from CNN today. And I don't know that this necessarily aligns with what I've heard from the witnesses on the ground, but I'll give it to you anyway. 5 people are dead, 40 others injured after an SUV plowed into a Christmas parade in Wisconsin. There are indications that the suspect was fleeing another incident when he drove into the parade route, according to multiple law enforcement sources familiar with the preliminary investigation findings. So far, there is no connection to international or domestic terrorism, and it does not appear to be connected with the recent verdict in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, the sources said. Now, these are law enforcement sources, and this is coming through the filter of CNN, which make you think I shouldn't listen to it, which is not a bad instinct. But it is the indications they're getting from, at least they're reporting, the indications from law enforcement sources. I want to be very careful with where this information is coming from, because when it comes through the filter of CNN, it's hard to know what you should trust. However, basically they're saying that this guy was in the middle of another incident, maybe potentially escaping from police, and decided to just go down this road. Now, of course, he has all sorts of history with drugs as well. Now, my understanding, and you tell me if I'm wrong on this, Pat, my understanding from witnesses on the scene was that he was directing his SUV at people.
Yeah, witnesses described the horrifying incident and said the calm driver was going from side to side targeting people.
So that does not sound like someone escaping another incident to me.
Not at all. Not at all.
So I'm highly skeptical of this report, but it is really the only bits and pieces of information we sort of have. You know, a lot of people were there. A lot of people recognized, I mean, the stories they were telling of, it sounded like there was cheering coming, and then you realized as it got closer down the street to you, it sounded like horror.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, absolutely unbelievable.
I've seen a few of the scenes from the cable news stations that they've been playing, and this guy drove by like little teeny babies, essentially, on the street at a high rate of speed, and just by the grace of God didn't run over that particular 2 or 3 year old person who was out on the street jumping up and down when the parade was going by. And then you see this just this flash of the red Explorer go zipping by at, 50 miles an hour. Something had to be around there. And it looked like he's purposefully going down the street on the way to where he drove over these people. Just, it was pretty ugly. And who knows what the motivation is.
And on the internet, there does appear to be much more graphic video of the incidents actually happening. I'm not going to watch them. I'm just not going to do it unless I have to.
Very disturbing.
Right. Like, if it comes to a point in this trial where they're trying to say, well, actually, his car, the alignment was wrong, and that's what caused this, then I may have to watch it at some point to fully disprove that narrative. But like there's enough terrible things in the world. I don't want to. I really don't want to get it in my head. I can imagine what it was like, and that's as far as I want to go. But that just may make me a wuss, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. I'm fine with it. I try not to watch these videos when they come out, when there's the video of someone getting run over with a car or being murdered, or, even like those fight videos that they post sometimes where it's like, look at this is in a school. And there's 8 teenagers beating up one kid on the ground. Look, what's wrong with our culture? You're right. I agree with the question, but I'm not watching the video. I don't want to see it. Yeah. And that may be me hiding in a cave.
No, it's not. I don't think it's necessary. I mean, if you want to see what it looked like and you're really super curious, and I think a lot of people are, it's kind of like it's hard to look away from a train wreck.
Yeah.
You're going to look at it.
I try to look away from the train wreck, though, when I can.
Yeah.
Because it does make, I think number one, it makes us feel that sense of darkness. And I think it makes us feel like all of society is that way. And I will say, at some level, it's really not. I went to a Christmas thing this weekend, and it was freaking awesome. It was just great, small town, holiday spirit, and no one ran over anybody. I want to make sure that whoever does do that really is held responsible. And I honestly, frankly, inside of me just want revenge on that person. That's probably not a healthy instinct. But we have to remember that this is not, we see all of these things now. We don't have to see all of them. Our parents, and our grandparents woke up, they had their coffee and their donuts, they went to work, and on the way home, maybe they watched or when they got home, maybe they watched the evening news. In the morning, maybe they read the paper. And that's kind of it.
But you never had video of this kind of stuff.
No, you didn't need to see all of this.
Then.
And there's not much you can do about it on an individual basis. You don't need to see an attack to try to turn the culture around. I feel like we just have this constant feeling of despair because this stuff washes over us all the time. And it's probably not healthy.
888-727-BECK. More Pat and Stu for Glenn coming up. It's Pat and Stu for Glenn on the Glenn Beck program. 888-727-BECK. It looks like the box office in throughout the country starting to come around a little bit now. It's been so bad at movie theaters for the last year and a half that the whole movie industry started deciding, okay, well, what if we just send them directly to people's homes and we'll just stream them and we won't worry about the box office because nobody's going to the theaters. Well, it's kind of back now. Ghostbusters Afterlife, which there have been, how many Ghostbusters have there been lately? They
did the girl one.
The girl one.
And then they go back to the originals. There were, three of them? I think they did three of the originals.
Maybe three. And then the girl one, and now Ghostbusters Afterlife. But it brought in $44 million, which is not bad for a weekend after COVID. In a post-COVID world, that's pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, did they do a Fast and Furious they just released? And that actually did even better than that. I think that was in...
Yeah. There's been a few, and Venom was one of them. I think that did like 90 million on its weekend. It's up to Venom Let There Be Carnage, 206.5 million.
Yeah, and that's
a lot for now.
Yeah, for now. What is it? 60% back, maybe 70% back?
I'd say about that.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it's all the way back.
It's not. So they're in a kind of weird position. Do we release it at both places? Do we just do one or the other?
Well, that's kind of what they seemingly did with the James Bond thing, where
it is.
This seems like the new model where they released it. It was in the theaters, but only for like a month exclusively. I feel like maybe even less than that because I watched it at home.
I did too. I've already seen it.
And it wasn't like the HBO Max releases where they're releasing it at the exact same time. There was a delay.
Right.
But then it came out and I was just like, oh, yeah, I'll watch this, which it was fine.
But Dune was simultaneous.
Yeah.
Theaters and home. Have you seen Dune? That's not really your cup of tea.
I watched the first minute and a half of it and I was like, yeah, no.
A full minute and a half?
I better cut my losses right now.
This is the Glenn Beck program.
Hi there, I'm Hillary. Welcome back to the 4-Minute Buzz. Let's start the hour off with a fun story. Happy birthday, Toy Story. 26 years ago today, can you believe it? The first Toy Story movie premiered in theaters. This movie was a trailblazer, being the first completely computer-animated movie. It was an instant success, boosting film company Pixar into film notoriety. The movie, it has since spawned 3 sequels, 2 television specials, dozens of shorts, and it has a spin-off on the way. So many things to infinity and beyond. I love Toy Story. Now let's recap some of today's top stories. The Kyle Rittenhouse case, it is finally over. After weeks of trial and almost a week of jury deliberation, the jury announced that they had reached a unanimous verdict last Friday afternoon. The jury acquitted Kyle on all charges. And here's Kyle reacting to the jury foreman reading off the jury's decision.
As to the first count of the information, Joseph Rosenbaum, we, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the second count of the information, Richard McGinnis, we, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the third count of the information, unknown male, we, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the fourth count of the information, Anthony Huber, we, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the fifth count of the information, Gage Grosskreutz, we, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty.
Members of the jury, are these your unanimous verdicts? Is there anyone who does not agree with the verdicts as read? Would you wish the jury polled?
No.
Well, this jury announcement, it took social media by storm, with people from all across the political aisle giving their opinions. Here's the Blaze's very own Glenn Beck sharing his opinion on the verdict.
We have to agree to disagree. And on this one, I hope that most Americans can agree justice was done. If you watched the trial, justice was done. How many people watched it? I don't know. But before you give an opinion on it, you go back and watch the trial, because that kid was innocent and he deserves his day in court with all of those in the media that made him into a monster. God bless you, Kyle. God bless your family. If there's anything I can do, you let me know. I'm with you. God bless. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way.
But not everybody was happy with this outcome. Many high-ranking Democrats made sure to let their disapproval be heard. President Biden released a statement saying, quote, "While the verdict in Kenosha will leave many Americans feeling angry and concerned, myself included, we must acknowledge that the jury has spoken." Vice President Kamala Harris said in a tweet, quote, "Today's verdict speaks for itself. I've spent a majority of my career working to make our criminal justice system more equitable. It's clear there's still a lot more work to do." Well, meanwhile, in COVID news, Dr. Fauci has made some interesting claims regarding the COVID vaccine. Now, reports have been circling regarding the COVID booster shot and if that booster shot will soon be required to be considered fully vaccinated. Well, when asked about this change, Dr. Fauci was unclear on when this change would occur, but did say that it was a possibility in the future, saying, quote, "We're going to take a look right now at what the durability is of the booster. We're going to follow people who get boosted." And in more COVID vaccine news, Dr. Fauci had some things to say regarding the vaccine availability for infants and toddlers. He said in a statement to Business Insider that while he can't guarantee it, that, quote, "hopefully within a reasonably short period of time, likely the beginning of next year in 2022, in the first quarter of 2022, it will be available to them." I'm Hillary. That was the 4-Minute Buzz. Now here's Pat and Stu with one more hour of the show.
Thanks, Hillary.
One thing I learned from Hillary's report is I don't think Glenn gets the camera close enough to his face when he does those
right.
videos.
If it was directly up one of his nostrils,
that would be much better.
It would be way better.
Are you with me on this, Hillary? That was a weird shot, wasn't it?
That's a massive close-up.
He's got beautiful skin, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he does.
He does.
He was glowing.
Yeah, we actually, I don't think there's any shots where you can see it, but there's a picture of Glenn over in the corner here where it's like a close-up, and you could see like every like pore on his skin. It's the entire. Oh yeah, there it is. If you in real life, you can see like every one of his like hairs on his like mustache and like coming out of his nose, and like it's a weird. It makes me feel weird. I don't like it. I've
noticed that before, and wasn't going to comment on it.
Well, as we've said before, Pat, there's some things you see and you wish you didn't see.
Yeah, you can't unsee that ever.
No. And luckily, it's behind me during the show, so I get distracted.
That is helpful. That's true. All right. More coming up, just like what you just heard on the radio show in just a few seconds.
Tuttle twin.
What you are about to hear is the fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Today featuring Pat Gray of Pat Gray Unleashed, which you can hear immediately preceding this radio broadcast on the Blaze Radio and Television. And Stu Burgear of Stu Does America fame, which you can hear later on, like in the evenings at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock Eastern. Pat, thank you. Brand new episodes this week, so we've got a lot to go over. As one thing, every single person I see in my normal and non-work life says to me, well, you got plenty to talk about, don't you? Yes. I want less to talk about.
Yeah,
I want nothing to talk about. Can we have one day where there's nothing to talk about? And we're just like, gosh, I don't even know what we could do. Let's talk. All we could do is talk about like TV shows. That's what I want. There was a time where we did this show and you'd be able to just spend all your time on nonsense. And unfortunately, it's long
days are kind of gone. Yeah, kind of gone. I got to tell you about this new poll on the governor's race in Texas that's kind of interesting. We'll get into that. Also, China has apparently a hypersonic missile that can do things that almost defy physics. That probably isn't good.
Not great.
Not great.
No.
That's not great news.
I wish we had less to talk about.
See? Exactly. More on that and lots more in 60 seconds.
The Glenn Beck Program.
True laws protect people and their property from plunder. When true laws exist and are respected, people work hard to improve their lives and they work peacefully with others. Everyone prospers together and is happier. Does that sounds like science fiction at this point. But it sounds like common sense as well, and it's not so common anymore. It's a line from the Tuttle Twins' Learn About the Law, one of the many Tuttle Twins books your kids and grandkids should be reading right now. I have given these to my kids. They love them. The best thing you can do for your kids and your grandkids is to equip them with the truth about how America was set up so that they can, help make it that way again. The Tuttle Twins books are fun, entertaining, and filled with knowledge for your kids, your grandkids, and maybe even you. Christmas is around the corner right now. Kids enjoy these things, but you'll like them too because they're entertaining stories and also are telling your kids things about the way the country was founded and all of the important principles behind it. Right now, you can get early access to a special Tuttle Twins Black Friday deal. This is the biggest deal they've ever done. It includes the kids' books, activity books, audio books, guidebooks, and parent guides, all for 75% off the normal price. You can go to TuttleTwinsBeck.com, Tuttle, twinsbeck.com. Access the special deal. It's TuttleTwinsBeck.com for 75% off the normal price. It's TuttleTwinsBeck.com.
It's Pat and Stu. 888-727-BECK. Just say that the cookies that you and Glenn tried, was that last week or the week before?
Yes. Are they coming out?
They're coming out this Friday. So if you want to get in on that, you can sign up on the wait list at keksi.com, KEKSI.com. All right?
I'm very excited for this. These are delicious.
And they're really good.
Only available for a
limited time.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're
for a limited time.
Really good. Really good.
Keksi.com if you want to sign up on the list. All right. In Texas, the governor's race is like next year. Is it 2022? I think he's up again.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So Greg Abbott has probably been, with a couple of exceptions, like the mandate thing, maybe that I wasn't as mad at him as many Texans were over it because he kind of left it up to the municipalities, it seemed to me. But he's probably been the best governor of my lifetime. Of any state I've ever lived in, I can't imagine that he could be beaten by a guy nobody knows anything about his politics. We know things about his movies. We know nothing about his politics. Matthew McConaughey is 8 points ahead of Greg Abbott right now.
I don't know that I buy this, though. Do you?
Right. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not positive that I buy into that. Except that, people like him. and, they see his movies and they think, yeah, he seems like he's probably really good and he loves Texas and he's a Texas Longhorn fan.
Is that enough?
I don't think it's
to
enough.
Run a state?
And I suspect when his policies begin to unfold, people might feel differently because I'm guessing he's not the conservative that Texans maybe believe he is.
I would not be pushing the panic button if I were Greg Abbott or any of the Republicans running for the nomination, because he's being challenged in a primary as well. Alan West is in this primary. Don Huffines, our own Chad Prather, is in the primary as well. So I know they're in the middle of battling that out. We'll see how that goes.
I think West is ahead of Abbott too. Is he not?
I don't think so. No,
he's
not in the primary. No.
Okay.
The last primary poll I saw did have Abbott with a substantial lead. But look, the question in that primary is, can you get Abbott to a point where he wants to pay attention to the primary? It's like right now, it's like everyone else is kind of fighting it out to see who will be the non-Greg Abbott candidate. And if that occurs, if someone emerges from that field, there may be a discussion. It's interesting. You're right, Pat. There's a lot of pushback against certain things that Abbott did during the COVID situation. There was a statewide mandate for masks for a while here. It was not a particularly long one as far as the nation goes. And it was, my belief is it was never enforced once. It was never, no one was actually fined under this mandate.
Right.
However, I mean,
he shouldn't have done that in the first place.
A lot of people compare him to DeSantis on these things. He's done some stuff that I think a lot of conservatives like, some stuff that they don't. But he generally remains a relatively popular figure among Republicans in the state. And I find it very hard to believe that someone like Matthew McConaughey could come into this race in reality, not in in the state we're in now, which is you just apply whatever you think about Matthew McConaughey to the race. I like him. I like his movies. Therefore, I think I would vote for him. In a way, if you're only up 8 with that standard, it's probably not that good. I would not be sweating this right now if I were him. Now, Beto, I really wouldn't be sweating.
Yeah, Beto is down 49-27 to Matthew McConaughey in a head-to-head.
But there's no chance he could be in a head-to-head against Matthew McConaughey.
No.
I guess maybe if McConaughey ran in the primary.
As a Democrat.
As a Democrat, okay.
Yeah. And I don't even know which Matthew McConaughey is, frankly. Is he a Republican? Is he a Democrat? I think what he says is he's an independent, I think.
Yeah. It's like if there's let's say there's actually a path for Matthew McConaughey, I would believe this would be it. He would run as an independent. Yeah. And at some point, running as an independent, the Democrats would have to give up on the race and essentially either tell Beto to drop out of it, so they ran someone that no one knew, or Beto basically turned off his engines. We've seen this happen before. This happened in Connecticut many years ago. Joe Lieberman lost the nomination for the Democratic candidate to be the Democratic candidate in the Senate against Ned Lamont, I think it was. And was it Ned Lamont? I think it was Ned Lamont. And Lamont was the Democrat, but he was far, far left. And the Republican had a candidate on the ballot, but Lieberman registered as an independent, and Republicans basically gave up on the race, said, yeah, vote for Lieberman, because he's going to be a heck of a lot better than Ned Lamont. And that's what happened. So Lieberman won with the majority of Republican votes and a decent chunk of Democratic votes, along with a bunch in the middle, and was able to win the race. That could happen, you'd think, possibly with McConaughey, where you'd say, okay, Abbott's winning this race. He's beating Abbott, or he's beating Beto into the turf, which everyone does every time they run against him. And then they say, okay, we have no chance with Beto. Let's abandon this campaign and put our energies behind McConaughey. And if McConaughey, as an independent, can appeal to enough Republicans, we might be able to pull this thing off. That's probably their path of winning. Yeah, it's a very narrow path, and also is one that implies that McConaughey would have any credibility with people in the middle and on the right. And right now, there's no reason to believe that. And there's also, by the way, we should point out, no reason to believe he's running.
Yeah. I mean, he's coy about it. Yeah.
He flirts with it. He clearly likes the attention.
Oh, he loves the attention.
But, I mean, he has not made any move. He doesn't have a campaign. He hasn't run. He hasn't made any speeches.
He hasn't put together a committee.
Right.
an exploratory committee.
No. All we have right now is
that.
Whenever he does an interview about a movie, they ask him if he wants to be governor, and he says, well, I think, I love Texas, and, I do think we were off track. And that's basically it. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, he's running. I mean, he may run. I mean, look, Donald Trump paved the way, I think, for a lot of people who are outside of the world of politics to jump into it.
Yes. Yeah, because that's an attractive thing now. Yeah. Oh, good. You're not a politician? Yeah. Then I like you.
Yeah.
So that may be, maybe some of that rubs off on McConaughey and he does well. I don't know. The poll also put him in a three-way race. Abbott, McConaughey, and O'Rourke.
Yeah.
And in that scenario, it's Abbott 37, McConaughey 27, O'Rourke 26.
And that's what this is what I'm talking about with the scenario where the Democrats abandon it. If let's say McConaughey keeps his 27 and can get 20% of the Democrats,
and O'Rourke drops out.
They abandon the O'Rourke thing.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, you guys, take my advice. You should abandon the O'Rourke thing.
Like even before it begins.
I don't even think, honestly, they think they have a chance at this race. And I think they realize going into 2022, the timing's bad. Unlike what the situation was when O'Rourke first ran against Cruz, where you're talking about a Democratic wave year, and all the momentum is behind the Democratic Party. And Cruz still wins,
beats Beto.
But it's close.
Yeah.
Here, you're going into what is likely going to be the opposite. I mean, all indications are Republicans are going to make massive moves, massive gains across the country. This is not the year, and Democrats know this, by the way. This is not the year you win a gubernatorial race in Texas as a Democrat. So what they're doing with Beto is they're saying, we don't want to waste somebody good. Put Beto in. That is what they are doing.
To get pummeled one more time.
Yeah, we can't. If we take another person who has a future and throw him into this, as a sacrificial lamb into this lion's den, they have no chance of winning. We're going to lose. We're going to waste them. So instead, throw Beto out there. He's a known quantity. He'll keep the line on the ticket so we don't lose access to the ballot. And he'll probably be able to raise money.
He's willing to do it.
He loves himself. He loves being on TV.
Big time.
And he'll go around and he'll be a good soldier, and he'll get a bunch of money raised, and he'll lose by 12. And that is the likely outcome here.
And he's still sticking to this.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
He's just been asked about that, and he's still on that bandwagon.
He's not trying to back off at all.
Is that going to work in Texas? No. Not with Republicans or Democrats.
That doesn't even work nationally, let alone in Texas.
No.
I mean, come on. And that's what I mean. I don't think he believes he has any chance of winning this race. I don't believe the Democrats believe it. Yeah. I don't think anybody believes he has a chance to win this race, which is why Matthew McConaughey is attractive to Democrats, because they're like, anyone else? Now, I doubt McConaughey has much disagreement with Beto on these policies. We'll see if he decides to run, but I don't think there's going to be much light between them, honestly.
888-727-BECK. More coming up in a minute. It's Pat and Stu for Glenn on the Glenn Beck program. 888-727-BECK. Somebody's apparently not getting a message because Joe Biden is apparently telling allies right now he is running in 2024. The speculation has been that, he's going to step aside. He's too old. He just turned 79 on Saturday.
Happy birthday, John.
79 on Saturday. Oldest president, obviously, of all time. And you're going to run again when you're 81, 82?
Does not seem like a good idea.
No. When you're cognitively declined to this point, and then in 3 more years, you're going to be even worse, and you're going to run for president? Really? I don't think, even the people in the Democrat Party who don't believe that he's compromised cognitively, I don't think even they want him to run again because he's doing so poorly.
The 36% approval rating is not helping things.
That doesn't help
either. I mean, if things were going well, you might be able to make a case here. Okay, he's older, but he's very popular, and maybe they see him as an elder statesman. That's not how the American people see Joe Biden. They see him as a bumbling fool.
Yes, which he is.
That's because he is a bumbling fool.
Yes.
And it's a sad state of affairs. I mean, I don't like the Democratic ideal and their vision of this country, but I would like someone mildly competent running it.
Really?
You know, I mean, I would like.
You're kind of picky that way, aren't you?
I am. You know, I'm a stickler.
You want your president to be, I don't know,
coherent?
There?
Like present?
Like not a vegetable?
Yeah. Now, look,
I'd
he's
like
going
that
to
as well.
do, as he is president, and he's going to do more damage than good, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's an argument to be made. Maybe he should just stay home and not do anything. But like when you're talking to foreign leaders, when you're dealing with international affairs, things that the president really does have to deal with, it's scary.
It is.
It is scary.
It's really
he
scary.
He can't even keep it together for the cameras.
Right.
Let alone, God only knows what he's saying behind closed doors. But what do you do?
I'd love to know. I think. I don't know. It might just destroy the will to live. If you knew what he was saying to world leaders behind closed doors.
And if you're the Democratic Party, what do you do here? Right? You don't want him. You don't want her.
You don't want Kamala because she's even worse.
She's even worse.
As far as approval rating, she's at 28.
In the 20s, yeah. She's in the 20s. Now, I would there is a part of me. There's a part of me that likes to watch the Democrats squirm through these moments and try to get all of their competing ridiculous statements to work out together. For example, I will be interested to see whether it's 2024 or 2028 to see the Democrats' arguments as to why they are denying the first black woman vice president the nomination. Right. How exactly is...
How do you justify that?
How do you justify that with all of your Me Too? She was fine to be vice president of the United States and you're not going to let her be president? Like, why exactly is that happening?
Are you saying she's a second-class citizen then? Is that
seems
what you're
like
saying?
it. Everyone else when you're VP and you want to run, like not like Dick Cheney, for example, was not interested in being president after he was done in office. But if you are the VP, generally speaking, it's yours.
Yeah, you're the next person up.
You're the next person. They've invested a lot of resources in it, and their case has to be that things have been going well lately. So you get the gig. Joe Biden in 2016 didn't run, but he, it would have been, he would have been the favorite, I think, going in 2016.
Yeah.
Though Hillary would have had something to say about that, but I think Hillary was very beatable.
I think clearly.
Yeah, very, very beatable. So I don't know what you do.
And who do they have?
That's
the
nothing
thing.
Coming
who
up.
do you have?
They want Pete. That's why they keep bringing up Pete Buttigieg as if he's good.
Pete Buttigieg, come on.
He's terrible.
He is not going to win a national election. He's not going to. Richard Gephardt. Do you go back to Dick Gephardt? What about him? How old is Dick now? He's no older than Biden, is he?
That's a great question. I don't know.
I wonder who's older between Joe Biden and Dick Gephardt.
You said Biden was how old?
79.
Okay. Let's see.
So Richard is?
He was born in 1941.
Okay, 60 would be 2001. 70. He's 80. He's a little bit older then. He's a little bit older.
They're basically the same age.
Yeah, they're very close in age.
Right? I mean, he's about 80.
But who do you have? You've got retreads like
you really
like
don't.
Beto or who ran last time? Count Kamala, but we've already discussed her. Who else is there?
Eric Swalwell.
Eric Swalwell, the guy who slept with Fang Fang, the Chinese spy, for 2 years.
You'd think that would be even beyond the Democrats' line.
Would think, but I bet not. I bet not. I mean, he's still in office. They don't care. They don't care that he slept with a Chinese spy for 2 years.
Apparently not. You had Pete Buttigieg, you had Bernie Sanders, and you got to believe that Bernie's not running again.
He's too old.
Now, Liz Warren, you could see them trying to drudge back up again for another run.
Yeah, but nobody likes her either.
No one likes her either. Bloomberg, no one likes him.
Could you possibly bring up Al Gore?
I always think they're going to go back to Al Gore eventually. I don't know why.
I do too. Well, it's because he's won a Grammy and an Oscar and all of this. He was a superstar for a while.
Amy Klobuchar, no. I mean, Gabbard, they basically ejected from the party at this point. Yeah. She's pretty much out. She's doing interviews on The Blaze now.
Yeah.
So good luck winning a primary doing that. Tom Steyer, I think he's wasted enough of his money.
Yeah.
Deval Patrick, no. Michael Bennett, no.
I'm telling
Andrew
you.
Yang has started a new party.
It's Richard Gephardt. He's their only answer in 2024. Dick Gephardt.
Tim Ryan, Joe Sestak, Wayne Messam. Remember these people? Steve Bullock.
Barely.
Julian Castro. Marianne Williamson. Marianne Williamson,
yes,
bring her back.
Please.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
American Financing, NMLS 182334, www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org.
They ran a lot of candidates. I forgot how many there were.
Yep.
This comes from Diana, who wanted to let us know her experience with American Financing. She writes, I worked with Cindy. Cindy was amazing from beginning to end. She guided me through the entire process from getting qualified for a loan to the closing date. She was attentive, always followed up regarding to the statutes of the loan and the documentation needed. She was prompt in returning phone calls and emails. She was a team player and collaborated with my realtor, the little company, and the seller in order to stay on track and stay on top. I would recommend 100% her and American Financing to any future clients. Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, American Financing. We get these all the time. People who have used American Financing have had great experiences. Isn't that the process? Isn't that the experience you want to have when you're buying a new home or you're remortgaging your home? The people at American Financing know what they're doing, and they do a great job doing it, and they have done it for a long time. You can reach them at americanfinancing.net or 1-800-906-2440, 800-906-2440, or go to americanfinancing.net. It's americanfinancing.net.
It's Pat and Stu for Glenn. We were just talking about what the Democrats could possibly do in 2024, because I think it's pretty clear they don't want Biden to run again, and they certainly don't want Kamala to run at all. And so, who do they have? Who's on the Democrat bench that could win the presidency? And we're hard pressed to think of anybody. So we were revisiting some of the candidates from last time, and there were so many. And this is going to give you some, I will warn you, this is going to give you some emotional flashbacks hearing some of these names, because I had forgotten about most of these people, and we're only like a year away. So who is the bench? If you're going to run someone that is not Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, who are you running? Let's go through the field. Obviously, Joe Biden won. Second place was Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie will probably try to run again because he'll just keep running to the end of time. He'll be 83,000
years old.
83. So you cannot. And of course, I didn't think he'd run again. A 77-year-old.
And I didn't think Sanders was going to run again in 2020, but he did.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Bernie Sanders, I think we can all agree, is not the future.
No, I hope not.
Tulsi Gabbard, they basically kicked out of the party.
Yeah.
Okay. Elizabeth Warren. Now she's 71 now. So
should be 74, probably.
I think she's 70. No, maybe she was 71 when she ran, so she's 72 now, I think. You could make the argument she'll be young enough to run again, I guess, by the current standards. I mean, almost everybody is in their 70s running these days, so maybe you could say. But again, she did not make a good impact. I think everyone, there's a certain segment of society, almost 100% of it is in the media, that likes Elizabeth Warren. There's this weird sort of overtly socialist, but intellectual side. Like, it's not the Bernie socialism exactly. It's something a little different than that. And there's some segment of our society that likes it. It seems to be only media members, only people on MSNBC like it. Not the audience even of MSNBC. It's just the people on the actual channel. So she's going to get lots of publicity and positive press if she were to decide to run. But I mean,
she's not going to win.
No. And I don't think America as a whole. Again, try to picture one of these people winning a national election.
Yeah, no way.
Michael Bloomberg? No. Amy Klobuchar? No. Again,
can't imagine
on paper, you could say, okay, Minnesota, which is somewhat purplish at this point. Maybe a woman from Minnesota that was more on the conservative side. But again, the problem with this is we've seen these people in action. She's terrible as a candidate.
Yeah.
Terrible. Almost unimaginable how bad she is when it comes to debates and speaking publicly. Nobody likes her. She's a zilch. Pete Buttigieg. Again, I mean, I think the one reason you could argue he might be their nominee at some point is because they want to say they had the first gay nominee. We have the first gay American presidential nomination, like they said with Geraldine Ferraro 9 million years ago, the first female vice presidential nominee. Like, they want to be able to have those things they can say, but like there was never hope that Geraldine Ferraro was actually going to win be the vice president. They lost by approximately 1 zillion votes. Tom Steyer, I think we can say that he spent enough of his own money to be gone.
Yeah.
Deval Patrick, I mean, you forget he even ran. I mean, he came in really late. He was on the ticket maybe a month, and he was gone. Maybe you could argue Deval Patrick is 50 or 65 years old. Maybe he wasn't tainted enough by that last run. But, I mean, again, he was not electric.
Not at
on
all.
stage. Michael Bennett, no. Andrew Yang started his own party. He seemed to be the only one that could get anybody with any energy in this primary, but he's now left and started his own primary and didn't even win the Democratic nomination for the mayor of New York.
If you can't win mayor of New York, you're probably not winning the presidency.
Well, the primary was the only competition there, and he didn't even finish second.
Yeah, right.
I think he finished third, didn't he?
Maybe.
I think he finished third in that
maybe
race.
Third.
Or maybe fourth. John Delaney, I think, no, they didn't even like him in the primary last time. Cory Booker is another one you could make the case on paper for. But again, then you saw him. Like we unfortunately have witnessed. It's like, the Kyle Rittenhouse story. You could say if there wasn't video, you might say, oh, I don't know, he shot a bunch of people and he's white and he brought a gun. I mean, maybe he is a white supremacist. And then you saw the video. It's the same thing with Cory Booker. Like, you could make the case on paper Cory Booker's a good candidate, but then you've seen him speak. He's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
He is. Yeah.
Marianne Williamson? I don't think that's happening.
No.
Julian Castro, probably the same as Cory Booker, right? Like, you could see him on paper. Okay, maybe there's an argument to be made, but then you've seen him in action. He's terrible. And he also sort of personally attacked Biden's mental acuity during one of the debates, which is why he can't get a gig now. Unlike, it's okay for Kamala to call him a racist on stage.
Right,
but
which she did.
Which she did, and he got over it. And he's like, you know what? Come be the person I think should be in charge of this country should something happen to me. That's the one thing that's unique about being the presidential nominee. You have an opportunity to have a one-person election. You are the only vote that matters, and you get to name the person who will run the country if you go away for some reason.
Yeah, and it can be anybody.
And in that moment, Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris.
It's pretty bad.
Really bad.
Pretty bad.
And Kamala, I think we've discussed. Steve Bullock.
I don't even know who that is.
Right? Okay.
To this day.
To this day. Weren't you from? Didn't you grow up in near the mean streets of Helena? He was the governor of Montana until this year, and you don't even know who he is.
Don't even know who he is.
Joe Sestak.
Oh, wow. That's right. Joe Sestak.
Former representative in Pennsylvania.
And he's the one that insisted on the inclusion in the Obamacare package about the exclusion for funding of abortions or something?
No, I think you're thinking of another person.
That wasn't Sestak.
No.
Who was
Sestak
that?
is more liberal. It was
that's
another guy from Pennsylvania.
Somebody else from Pennsylvania.
He said, you know what? I'm not going to vote for Obamacare unless you say no funding will go to abortion. They're like, how about this? I'll make a fake executive order that allows you to say that publicly. Okay. That was basically that debate. Yeah. And by the way, they, of course, did abandon that.
Yes.
Wayne Messam. Now, Wayne probably has a huge future. He's 47 now. He's the current mayor of Miramar, Florida. So if there's not a path to the presidency, is there a path to the presidency that doesn't go through Miramar, Florida?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I didn't
think so. Beto O'Rourke, we've discussed, not the future. He's not even the future now.
Texas.
I mean, they're already using him as a sacrificial lamb. He's not even 50 yet. Tim Ryan was a catastrophe on stage.
Wow.
Again, like maybe in a different Democratic Party from years ago, you could make the argument for a more moderate congressman, but you can't make that argument now. And he was also terrible. Bill de Blasio, who, by the way, seems like he's going to run for governor of New York, which should make that race that's going to be a fun one. You have Letitia James, who took down Cuomo with the report. You have the current, acting governor of New York, Hochul. And then you have it seems to be Bill de Blasio all running in the same primary. That's going to be fun.
Oh, that should be fun.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Kirsten Gillibrand. Again, someone you could maybe argue.
On paper,
but she was so bad in the primary. Seth Moulton. I don't even think you can argue that one on paper.
Seth Moulton. Wow.
Here's one for you, Pat. Maybe you make the case on this one. Jay Inslee.
Okay, Jay Inslee. Governor of Washington. It's a fairly populous state. He's done what they consider to be a pretty good job on COVID-19 and the environment. He's a big environment guy.
Yeah.
So he could be the climate change guy. It's maybe.
It's not incomprehensible.
Yeah, Jay Inslee, I can't stand him.
Oh, yeah.
But Democrats like him.
He's 70 already.
Oh, wow.
And also, you remember seeing him on stage as well, and he was terrible.
He was not good.
He has no personality at all.
Good.
Again, that shouldn't be necessarily the determining factor, but it is a factor.
Yeah, it is.
He is a giant zilch when it comes to personality.
Huh.
So that's going to be a tough one.
Yep.
John Hickenlooper.
The guy who took his mom to a porn movie in the 70s.
Now, was it Debbie Does Dallas or Deep Throat? Do you remember? It was one of the two, I think.
I think it was Deep Throat, but
Okay.
I'm not positive on that.
Now,
I
that's
know it was a famous one.
Yeah, it was.
And
like the thing that everyone knows is a porn movie he took his mom to in a theater. Yes. You imagine? I know. Let's not imagine it.
No.
Eric Swalwell.
Okay. The guy who slept with Fang Fang, the Chinese spy, for 2 years.
Now, that actually might be a positive in a Democratic primary.
It might, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he revealed
It
that
might
during the
ingratiating
primary.
himself, too.
Maybe he should have.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, I'm actually sleeping with literal communists. Communist spies come to me when they want to manipulate our government.
And yes, I do some pillow talk and divulge secrets.
All the time.
All the time.
I'm trying to
It
turn
does
this country
happen.
into China. That might be the path to the
Might be.
nomination.
Yeah.
And
It
I would
might
say
be.
this one, Mike Gravel. Now, Mike would be
How
a
is it
challenge.
possible all these people ran for president?
Yes. The problem with Mike Gravel and
Wow.
his future is he's dead.
He
did
is?
die after
He
the
did
run in
die.
2021. So
Oh,
it
no.
would be
We
very
lost him?
difficult for him to win. Though dead voters seem to elect Democrats often. Maybe
dead candidates can win
could
too.
win too.
Mm-hmm.
So
didn't that happen in Missouri? Didn't a dead candidate for Senate win a Senate race in
Yes.
Missouri at one point?
Yes, it was
and so
Republican, right?
rather than give it to the dead person, his wife served. Right?
Obviously, yes.
Yeah,
I think that's
obviously.
what happened.
I think that's what happened.
Let me give you a real name here. Again, like I just got to throw this one out here. Kirsten Sinema in Arizona.
Yeah.
You have a purplish state.
Mm-hmm.
You have now they hate her. So there's no chance of her winning a Democratic
That's
primary.
true.
But if you were talking about someone who could win a national election, she's coming off as relatively sane right now, I think, to the American people. Now, is that really her? Her history is terrifying. I mean, she was a real left-wing activist for a while, but she does seem to be one of two sane Democrats in the party at this point, at least on these spending bills. I mean, maybe there's something there, but there's not a lot. Pat.
There's not.
I mean, they Ron DeSantis is now like the Republican guy. People forget. I mean, he was supposed to lose that election in Florida because they had these big up and coming people.
Yeah.
They thought they were going to win in Florida, and they couldn't even win there. Stacey Abrams couldn't even win her election. She's the future. Beto can't win. He's the future. They keep retreading these people who lose over and over again. They got nothing. It's just why I kind of think maybe Biden will be the candidate.
Maybe.
Because what else are they going to do? That might be,
At least you got the incumbent going for you.
This should be his slogan. Biden 2024, what else are you going to do?
Who else is there?
Who else is there? That's all they have
That's
at this
a great
point.
slogan.
Yeah.
They should use it. And this is interesting, too, because Quinnipiac just did a big survey of Americans and who they want. I mean, they did all kinds of different topics. One of them was, who would you rather see win control of the Senate? Democrats or Republicans? 46-40 Republicans.
And that's usually, even in a decent year for Republicans, usually Democrats win that measure.
Yeah.
Like the generic ballot is never friendly to Republicans. And the fact that the Republicans are winning it is a catastrophe for Democrats.
And, things don't look good for Biden. His approval rating, 36-53. I mean, that's really bad.
Really bad.
Really. I mean, you're underwater by 17 points. That's at this point of your presidency when you should still kind of be in a honeymoon period.
And he's behind every president that has been measured at this point in his presidency, with the exception of Donald Trump, who was always a guy who was divisive and had the media attacking him all the time. We know that. We know that whole history. I mean, Donald Trump
has
is
the
an
media
exception.
on his side.
Yeah.
And can't have decent approval ratings.
Yeah, they're like, look at Joe Biden's approval rating after what a great week. Why is this happening? A great week. First of all, even if he had a great week, it wouldn't outweigh all the other weeks.
Right.
Secondarily, what's his great week? He signed a multi-trillion-dollar disaster, which the only was capable of doing because of Republicans, which is a whole other story. And then he's trying to push another few $1 trillion down our throats. This is not a good week.
No, it's really not.
No.
888-727-BECK. It's Pat and Stu for Glenn on the Glenn Beck program.
By the way, we're having a little bit of a battle on the Blaze, on Blaze TV, about who is going to sell the most merch for Christmas. So we all have these codes they've given us for 20% off. Stu 20, Pat 20, I'm sure is there, Glenn 20. All these codes that you can use to sell merch and get your listeners 20% off. So there's been this battle going on right now. Obviously, you should support me in this battle because it's the most important thing that really anyone could do for this country is to go to StuDoesMerch.com, check out all of our merch. We have
you're not a good person if you don't.
Thank you, Pat.
Right?
That's what I think.
Unless you use Pat 20.
Yeah, either one of those should work fine to keep you as a good person and good standing in our society. And then,
but if you were to use like Sarah 20,
then you go to the gulag.
Yeah,
that's the new policy I support.
Re-education camp.
Yeah, but check it out. You can go check out all the merch, including I'm wearing the ugly sweater.
I love the Santifa Claus.
Santifa Claus. It's a combination of Santa Claus and Antifa. Santifa Claus. He's got a big club. He's got anarchy. He's working toward it, and you can help his effort. We also have a new one that's ChristmasReeducationTraining.com, CRT. Santifa Claus is re-educating our children for Christmas this year. So ChristmasReeducationTraining.com. Code Stu20, Pat20, Glenn20, Sarah20, all the shows on Blaze TV that you like. You can help us in our little battle as we fight against each other.
And you get 20% off.
Well, that's the real thing.
Really kind of cool.
Yeah, very cool.
That's nice. Yeah.
So check it out. We have Pat Gray Unleashed as well to follow, if you could do that, and Stu Does America. We'd highly appreciate it. More this week on the Glenn Beck program.
This is the Glenn Beck program.